Get started. Hello, everybody. Rick DiClemente with you from Pittsburgh and Astrology Unplugged. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a young man who has been going through some special things because he's been labeled as ADHD. Before I get into that, I want to just mention to people who are new, we are a weekly show every Thursday. In case you're watching this on YouTube, you can join us any Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern by going to just go to Google and type in Astrology Unplugged, and you will get the link. We talk about all things, different issues of astrology. It's not an A through Z course. We've been on about 4 years until we get it right. And then once a month or every 2 months, we have guests to talk about different types of topics. Some of us are quite proficient with astrology. Some are not. It doesn't matter as long as you are into it and get into it. I'm going to set the mute on so we don't get any feedback. All right. Now, I have a habit here of starting early by talking to John, and John and I were talking about the chart of Gandhi, and I'm going to show you Gandhi's chart before I get into this other kid, because Gandhi's chart is unbelievable. You're just not an unbelievable person unless your planets are unbelievable. It's just how it goes. Well, you could take the word charisma and you could take every letter in that word and capitalize it, and then you could triple it, and then you might get somewhere near where Gandhi was. Gandhi was unbelievable. I'm going to show you why. All you people writing messages, I'm sorry, I don't have time to answer them. Okay, here's Gandhi's chart. Now, John said to me, how could Gandhi be so powerful, etc., being a Libra? Well, notice it's got one planet there, and it's weak in the 12th house. Mercury in Scorpio. Scorpio rising, Venus in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio. Pluto opposite the midpoint of Venus and Mars. Pluto and Jupiter opposite the midpoint of Venus and Mars in Scorpio. Pluto and Jupiter opposite the midpoint of Venus and Mars in Scorpio. All T-squared to Moon and Leo. I don't have to tell you anything about this. Venus and Mars is very common with people who are narcissistic. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they're not. But when you put Pluto opposite the midpoint, you don't even need these two. Just these two rising in the first house, let alone Mercury right on the ascendant. This guy had just charisma just by subtle thoughts that he gave you when he was around you. You just said, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. This chart is so unbelievably powerful. I'm not even going over what happened when planets hit these parts. Now, I'm going to say something to you before I forget, and then we'll get on with the child. Gandhi, I don't remember the details. I read his life story. And near the time of the 1948 liberation from England, he called on everybody come to my town for a speech. Everybody come. He called on the hundreds of thousands to come to hear him speak. And when I got there, his wife said, they're out and they're ready for you to go on stage and talk. He says, I'm not going. She said, you're what? He says, I'm not going. I don't feel like talking. She said, you're what? And he told them, what was it he said? My consistency is the truth. It's not to my actions. So what happened was he was just in the moment, whatever it felt like, and I'm sure it all worked out. But when you have that kind of unbelievable power, he stopped the British Empire with his own charisma. Because that Moon and Leo, can you imagine the support that the Moon and Leo got from Venus and Mars and Mercury and Pluto and Jupiter, all sending their energy to that Moon and Leo in the 10th house? That means I am the man. There has never been a man like this, but without the ego. You can't even estimate what this is like. But he was an avatar. But this is a really, really rare chart. Really powerful. And why he got away with it? Because it was right. That's why he got away with it. Because he was true. He was lined up with truth. You couldn't battle that. And he was the avatar of the moment. Okay. Now to our young men. This grandmother came to me last week or 2 weeks ago with concern about her grandson, who they've been having some difficulties with, 15-year-old Gemini, living out west, and the mom and dad had gotten to their wits' end. There was no more they could do. Oh, well, the kid was a good kid growing up, but he's running into this period where he's starting to get everything's affecting him. He became suicidal last year, less than a year ago. He did not commit suicide. But whenever you hear about somebody that's losing it, when it's this kind of energy, it's always Uranus. It's Uranus. If it's this coming out of my skin, I can't handle it. I'm overwhelmed. If it's, ooh, it's weird and I'm confused and all that, what's going on? That's Neptune. If it's this damn thing sitting on me, wow, that's Pluto. You can feel this. There's no mystery. If it's, oh my God, I can't take another job. I got so many jobs and so many bills and I got so much weight on me. It's Saturn. 4 planets. This kid was clearly Uranus. So we're going to take our time because my main job tonight is not to show you what happened in this guy's chart. It's to show you how unbelievably accurate and worthwhile astrology is if you do the real thing. And I realized after having 10 days to think about this, because I knew I was going to do this, what happened to me is I evolved during the reading. I changed during the reading. I had a real good rapport with the grandmother. We had a good discussion. I don't try to pull it all out of my head. It's got to come from her, come from me, come from her, back and forth. Dialogue. That's how it works. Colleen's playing a dance. She's going in and back out. That's how it works. So you don't have to become an excellent astrologer. You don't have to become one. Matter of fact, you're not going to become an excellent astrologer unless you got an awful lot of things lined up, but you can get better and better at it just by getting into it. There's the kitty cat. Where's your cat, Glenda? You hear my voice yet? Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this unknown individual that I'm calling Mr. ADHD. Okay. All right, there we go. Let me stop and fix something here. Okay, I was getting some kind of hum there. Okay. Here's this person's chart. All right, we're going to start out really basic and we're going to build it. Remember, we're all going to use a number 2 pencil. Okay, the sun is in Pisces and it's in the 12th house. So this is like being a double Pisces. So what you have with this symbol, and we're going to start mixing them all later, with this symbol, somebody's very quiet, very peaceful, very loving, in the background, kind of mystical, keeping things to themselves, not a big ego. Okay, loving. Moon. The moon is where? Moon is in Scorpio. Okay, so now you've got a water sign and you got a water sign. So you now have a person who's got a lot of emotions, and now we know they're really intense. They're not fuzzy-wuzzy, they're intensely focused. They're at the tip of a T-square. The moon is in Scorpio. The moon is in this fall in Scorpio, which means it's one of the worst places for the moon to be in general. But I think that's a little bit overhyped. I find many people that do just fine with a moon in Scorpio. The problem with a moon in Scorpio is they can become very jealous and they can become full of self-hatred. It's the one thing you have to watch for. So this is a person with really intense emotions. And whenever the moon is really strong in a chart, you must always question the mother. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with the mother, but you must always follow. Question the mother, and it may not be the mother at all. It may be how the child sees that mother. But whenever the moon or Saturn are really amplified, you got to check out the mom. When Saturn is amplified, you got to check out the dad. Okay? That's just the way it is. So we know that the person's extremely emotional. Okay? The rising sign, the sun, the moon, and rising. The rising sign is Aries. Well, I think that's very good to have a rising of Aries because, as I've written in this book, The Exquisite Zodiac, the main problem. Did I turn this? Yeah, I got it recorded. Good. The main problem with Pisces is they don't have enough ego. They work so much to be anti-ego that they can succeed and end up walking into telephone poles because they don't have a sense of self. The Aries rising really helps. It really does. It gives you a strong sense of self. So it counterbalances the sun in Pisces. The sun in Pisces, Aries rising. So we have a possibility of a good chart here. My question mark that's automatically started rising in my mind is, what are we going to do with an over-amplified moon in Scorpio? I don't know yet. But it's got a lot of exaggeration coming to it from Saturn, from Chiron. 7, 4, 7. It's a lot of pressure coming. When you have a T-square, the two planets at the basis of the T-square, you have to understand what they're doing before you can analyze the T-square up to the moon. You can't understand what the moon is doing without knowing what's this ping pong going on between these two planets. So we're going to investigate that. So we know after a while, if you just have two planets, you've seen this with people you've met. If you just have two planets that are opposite, not without a third, you see people ping pong in front of your eyes. You're talking to them, they're going bing bong, bing bong. You can see it, they boing, boing, boing. They can't help it. It's what's going on with their energy. When it goes to a third planet, depending on the nature of the third planet, that third planet gets to be the outlet, the escape valve. So you've got what at the basis of this T-square? Saturn in Leo, stationary. I'm sorry, I should put my glasses on. Saturn is retrograde, opposite Chiron at 4. It's also opposite Venus. So it's mainly opposite Chiron and Aquarius. This is a stellium of great interest in helping fellow man. This is very wonderful, doing things with his buddies, doing things with group activities, doing things with conservation in mind, the environment in mind. This is very strong. Now remember, the Saturn opposite Chiron is kind of troublesome here. Why? Because one, the Saturn is in Leo, and Leo is really opposite of what the Virgo-ness of Chiron rules. Chiron, being the ruler of Virgo, is this trait of being selfless and serving mankind. And this is all about serving me. Serve them, serve us, serve me. So this battle goes on. It comes from the past life, which we're going to take a long time tonight talking about the 12th harmonic. Marcia Butt, I can see the top of your glasses. Thank you, dear. Okay, so this fight that goes on between these two, which is me, us, me, us, me, us, me, us, when it has excess, at least this guy has an escape valve, which is the moon in Scorpio. And what's the moon in Scorpio say? Oh my God, the moon in Scorpio is Elizabeth Taylor. Pisces, Elizabeth Taylor, moon in Scorpio. It's that deep passion. Like when she turns to the camera and she tells you what perfume she's using. Magical, mystical, powerful. Same combination. So now you've got a very powerful moon, but we don't know if it's steady. It is being squared by Saturn. But when you doing charts, err on the side of, hello, Colleen, I saw you there. Err on the side of being light with it. Don't try to over translate it at first. Don't try to over translate what it means yet. We don't know enough. We keep going round and around the chart. Then you start to see repetitive patterns. Then you start to become sure of yourself. So let's move on. We know that we got the Chiron Saturn over to the moon. I think that moon's in the 8th house. No, it's in the 7th house. Okay. The Mercury is where? The Mercury is in Pisces and it's retrograde. Now, don't be shocked when you are born with a Mercury retrograde. By progression, it will only last at the very most 21 years. Because after 21 days, each day represents a year by progression. After 21 days, the Mercury turns direct. Okay, so we know that he's 15, and if we go with animation if we animate this chart by days, we see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So around age 9, he was born with a Mercury retrograde, but around age 9, his Mercury stopped and started going backward. So around age 9, 8, 9, 10, you will see this child start to change mentally, Mercury. Some people don't talk till Mercury goes direct. Some people can't read till it goes direct. Some people just don't want to bother. They have dyslexia, whatever. But it's very common when your Mercury changes direction for your life to change direction. And as far as this child is concerned, his Mercury is direct for the rest of his life, including the houses that Mercury rules. Now, Mercury in Pisces is not a good place for Mercury. Why? Because it's exalted opposite in Virgo. Your worst place for a planet is opposite where its best place is. Mercury's best place is in Virgo because it's decisive, analytical. Give me the facts. Here's the answer. Boom. Robotic. Well, opposite in Pisces, it's just not very decisive. Well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. Well, why not? Well, I'm not sure. Well, I just don't know. I'm not sure. That's what a Mercury in Pisces can be like. Mercury in Pisces is also wonderful for the artist who just floats around that paintbrush, and the poets is the beautiful sign of a poet who can just put things in the most ethereal terms that you have no idea what they're talking about, but somehow they're moving you. So the Mercury has got some trouble with it. Okay? This probably comes from a past life issue where he was too spaced out, too spread too thin. We don't know yet. We don't want to know yet. We don't know yet. Leave it be. Come back to it. Don't be arrogant. Think you're going to look at a symbol. This is what it means. Ha! You don't know. Sometimes you will. Sometimes you just need time with it. What did I tell you, Colleen? I told you years ago. 4 things about the planets when you're reading a chart. Things you know. Things you'll never know. Ever. Things that blink. That's because you know something's going on, but you're not sure. So you want to keep checking that planet. What's that mean? And things that are karmic, which means I'm not sure, but they seem to be tied to their karma. So we're just dealing with his personal planets now. I know it's hard for me to go simple because I get so complicated. I try to go slow, and I got my slow shoes on tonight. Okay. Venus and Mars. Venus is next to Neptune. Venus is in Aquarius. This is a person who's very, very friendly and very loving to his friends. The house of friendship, it's Venus in Aquarius. That means he just loves friends. He loves doing things with his groups. He's already in Pisces. What am I doing here? I got the wrong chart.
But wasn't that his progress chart where he would be now?
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I certainly had the wrong one. Okay, I'm fine now. There's the Venus in Aquarius. I just had something wrong with the signs here. Okay, let me get this here. Okay, here we go. The Venus is in Aquarius. So we like that there. It's airy in Aquarius. It's airy, which means he likes to get into far out stuff and have far out discussions with his friends. Where's the Mars? Oh, look at the Mars. It's almost like a bucket pattern. We don't know yet, do we? Is this a bucket pattern to Saturn? Is this a bucket pattern to Mars? Is it a bucket pattern to both? What I've discovered lately watching the moon, without a doubt, I've always been taught there's the bucket, and if the moon's down here, it's a bucket pattern to the moon. The moon is the handle. But I've seen so many people with two planets together, moon and something else, and I don't care what planet's with it, it's still a bucket pattern to the moon. It still acts like one. So I don't know. I'd have to know him a little more, talk with him. Is he primarily Martian? Is he primarily Saturnian? If he's really Saturnian, then he's very Saturnian in Leo. And that means he's always right. And that could be a source of trouble, especially with the moon in Scorpio and Aries rising. So we have three symbols of him being always right. Aries rising, Saturn and Leo, moon in Scorpio, let alone Jupiter. But what about the Mars and Gemini? Mars and Gemini is what you think it would be. It's a jack of all trades. He likes to do this, likes to do this, likes to do this. That's fine. He's a jack of all trades. He could do lots of things at one time. So we have a really interesting character here. We got a sun in Pisces. We have Aries rising. We got the moon in Scorpio. We got Venus in Aquarius, and we have Mars in Gemini. So that's not a real big problem because he's got a lot of versatility. And what I understand, his first 12, 13, 14 years weren't too bad. A lot of difficulty came in the last year or two. And what happened in the last 2 years? And that's why you got to know where the planets are. You got to know where the planets are. You don't have to know Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter and Mars and Venus and that, but you got to know the outer four. You got to keep them in mind. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. Neptune's been in Pisces. Is that right? Yeah, I'm not even sure. Yeah, Neptune is in Aquarius. All right. For about 7 years now. Uranus has been in fixed signs Taurus for the last 2 years. That's our suspect. Saturn has just gone in about 6 months ago into the sign of wait, I'm getting you messed up. I don't want to get this straight for you. Okay.
It just went into Aquarius.
Hold on, please. Saturn just went into Aquarius, is right. And Neptune is in Pisces, as I said. I got confused between the two. Now, all right. Okay, in his chart, where the complexity comes in, we do look at the outer planets. We see Pluto's up in the 9th house. It's not really opposite Mars. It's too wide. Neptune is in Aquarius, but it's next to Venus. And the Neptune He's too far from square to the moon. Uranus, we know, is the problem because we're here getting these reports of, like almost like a nervous breakdown type of energy. That's Uranian. And Uranus is next to Mercury. This is the nervous system. Age 4 degrees away. Uranus is next to Mercury. It's already in Pisces in the 12th house. It's being squared by Mars. So when Uranus is next to Mercury, it's like somebody has a plug, excuse me. Nervous energy is coming through you all the time. And it's very prominent with people with epilepsy, people with brain problems, people with communication problems, people with stuttering issues. Your flow of voice and mind words is not fluid. It's herky-jerky and it's spastic. So we know the potential's there. But we're not too worried about it because it's 4 degrees away. Now, if that child were born with it on the same degree or 1 degree away, the issues would be much more intense. But I can guarantee you, even in his pleasant years of 0 through 12, every time a planet came by and hit those two, something acted up. Then the parents say, oh, it's this or it's that or something he ate. Because we're really experts at mislabeling everything. Because we don't know astrology. Okay. When I heard details of him acting out, being unable to be controlled, being suicidal, I said, what happened in the last 2 years? Well, blah, 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 blah. When I went back to when Uranus entered Taurus, that's when the problem started. And I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all. I'm totally expecting it. Yes, square. And if it's not, then I'm shocked. When Uranus turns on you, and I don't mean turn against you, when Uranus is turned on you, it's like somebody turning the rheostat up and you ain't got any control. And people say, I'm coming out of my skin. I'm beside myself. I'm nuts. I don't know what's going on. What the hell's gotten into you? And it's because this energy is not controllable. It is not repressible. You cannot repress it. You cannot repress it. And everybody tries to repress it. What the hell's going on? Shove it down. And when you shove it down is when you get strokes. It's when you get aneurysms. It's when you get car crashes. It's when Tiger Woods gets his lower leg broken bad. Tiger Woods. Uranus opposite Uranus. Uranus opposite Uranus. Midlife crisis. Saturn up here. He had Uranus opposite Uranus within 1 degree, Saturn at the top forming a T-square. Uranus is the lower leg. Now, I don't know how in the hell Uranus knows when you have a car wreck whether to mess your head up or to mess your leg up. It's just unbelievable how that works. But Uranus is below the knee and above the foot. It's just unbelievable how it happens. It's really a mystical thing. What does it mean? I'll tell you exactly what it means. He's going through Uranus return, midlife crisis, and Saturn's hitting him. It means, and you're not going to believe this filthy rich billionaire, he's having trouble expressing himself. He can't be himself. We all know he was growing up with a dictatorial father, had him on TV at age 2. But Uranus problems come to us when we stuff the individual down. Now, I don't know what he's been doing lately the past couple of weeks, the past couple of days, but that's what led to his wreck. If something was coming up out of him, he wouldn't accept it for whatever reason. He shoved it down, car goes off the road. Why didn't he die? The reason he didn't die is because he had enough good karma. If he had all bad karma, he probably would have died. But I'm not going to get into that further. But I thought you might like to know that information because I think it's intriguing. Uranus and Saturn were both within 1 degree. He was very lucky. Now, when you are born with Mercury Uranus, It's like having Mercury in Aquarius because Uranus rules Aquarius, but it's not a smooth or fluid because Mercury wants to be itself. What does Mercury want to do in Gemini? Is that right? Mercury's in Pisces. What does Mercury want to do in Pisces? It wants to float around and look at this and draw pictures and woo and give me the colors and the watercolors. And it just wants to space out and daydream. And that's what Mercury in Pisces does. Not like Colleen, your boy has Mercury in Gemini. Different. But when Uranus is there, you've already got a Mercury that's very Piscean. Now you got one that's very Aquarian. You got the two of the most advanced energies there are in the zodiac with Neptune and Uranus. Far out stuff. So this kid is capable of really handling far out discussions. He's no little boy. He's capable of it, but he probably can't handle it emotionally. So what I think happened to him, we're going to get into it deeper much later, but what I think happened to him is massive energies just came to him. He didn't know how to handle. It came out in his behavior. And then you get all the doctors jumping on. Well, it's this, or it must be this, or it must be that. It could be here, it could be that. I had one tell me once I was having carpal tunnel in my toe. How's that one for you? So a carpal tunnel in my toe. Yay. Waits for Kentucky. Oh my God. The doctors do a lot of guessing when they shouldn't be guessing. Okay? Now, let's go back here. You guys sending me messages? I'm sorry, I don't have time to read them. Now, here is the Mercury Uranus. It's in the 12th house, which gives it more of a Pisces character. It's already in Pisces. It's next to Uranus in Pisces. Now, we're going to let that sit there. That is very symbolic of a very turbulent, unconscious mind. Now, we don't know enough about it yet. Now we look to the next personal planet. Venus is next to Neptune. It's 7 degrees away. So whenever you have too much outer stuff, Liza and I talked a lot about this writing the book. When you have a lot of outer stuff, you're so concerned with everybody else and all these other principles, but you can't channel it because you're not grounded. When you're too inner, like all Aries and all Taurus and all Gemini, you're so self-oriented, you're not interested in what's happening out there. So the perfect person has a nice balance of both. In his case, he's really out there, which means he needs a brilliant parent. And I'm not saying his parents aren't because I don't know them. But I'm saying he's so brilliant that he has a hard time channeling it down into his actual life, which is why I told Colleen years ago to put her boy with 5 planets in Gemini, put him into martial arts, and he went in and he really succeeded, and it really, really helped him for years to channel his energy instead of the energy just running him. So we're starting to see a child who's really complex because the outer energies are overwhelming the inner energies. Okay, we're also starting to see somebody that's not allowed to do something for himself. He's got to do everything for everybody else. Martyrdom. When I talked to Grandma, the first word I said to her, the trouble with him is self-hatred. Moon in Scorpio. She said yes. All right. With all this stuff channeling to the moon, the Venus is all about you got to do everything for everybody else. Plus, it's next to Chiron, which is so idealistic. This is 4 degrees away. This is 7 degrees away. So it's sort of in the middle. This is very, very idealistic. The 12th house is idealistic. So he's grown up doing all this stuff so idealistically. And then all of a sudden, here comes Uranus right here at 0 degrees of Taurus. And when it entered Taurus around here, it sent its shockwaves to that moon in Scorpio. 2 years ago, when Uranus entered 0 Taurus, it sent the shockwave to 0 Taurus, to 0 Aquarius, to 0 Leo. So it shocked, it was hitting the sensitive point of the whole T-square. The whole T-square points to the moon, and Uranus hits here. Now, are you ready for this? You ready for this? Uranus is the planet that hits exactly. And that T-square to the moon is exact tonight. That Uranus was 1 minute away last night. 1 minute. That Uranus is hitting that moon tonight. Precise to the minute. I'll show you. It doesn't shock me at all because I see it all the time. Look at this child. We're going to go look at today's planets. Okay, this is tonight. Now look at, let me get it on your screen. Okay, the outer planets are where the planets are now. I got the wrong chart, I'm sorry. Here's the ADHD. Now let's go by will. Tonight, Uranus is at 7. What is wrong here? Uranus is at 7:29 tonight. The moon is at 7:29. 7:29, 7:29. That planet will be exact 1 day every 84 years. That's tonight. Now, do you think that's a coincidence that we're putting this on the air? Because Uranus is all about the internet, sharing it on the web, et cetera, et cetera. What this means is he's ready for this to be dealt with. If he weren't, he wouldn't have found me. She wouldn't have found me. So this is a very good sign that she found me. It's not because of my big ego. It just means he's come and found somebody who can translate this. Because what Uranus do? Get you free of. What's the moon in Scorpio known for? Just fixed feelings. You love it or you hate it. You love it or you hate it. You love it or you hate it. Black and white. And that's why I told her the first minute of the reading, it's about self-hatred. Because I've told people with Scorpio energy, there's 2 problems with Scorpios. When I wrote the Scorpio chapter, I was amazed how quick it was. And I wrote, what's it like when you're with them? Do they suck your energy or do you feel stronger? When you're with a Scorpio, you either feel stronger or they're sucking your energy from you. Literally, consciously. Second part, and the most important part about a Scorpio, which separates the good ones from the bad ones, no doubt about it, do they hate themselves? If they don't, you really got a great friend and they're powerful alignments. And if they do, then get the hell out. Get the hell out. Because they're going to turn it on you. They're going to find your weak spot, they're going to rub it in, and they're going to not let you forget about your weak spot, and they're going to use it against you. But it's got nothing to do with you. It's all self-hatred. It's exact tonight. Now, we're going to have to take a back burner for a moment. What I have learned, and you can talk to all the astrologers in the world that you want to. I've been doing it 43 years, and every astrologer is different. But what I have learned, John, what I have learned about astrology is a map and it's a calendar of when you're going to go back to God. I don't care what other people think. They can have their opinion. They can throw mine in the garbage. I don't care, because this is what I have learned. It's a map of when you're going to go back home, because you left home and the only thing you can do is stay away from home or go back. Now, if you stay away from home, that's what's called hell. It's not some burning place. It's hell because you're not attached to your blissful home, your source. And what's all these different things we talk about, all these exercises people do, and all these traditions people do, they're all trying to get back home. Everybody's, all the songs, all the music, all the love, all the stuff, all the sex, everybody's trying to get back to that blissful spot. All the poetry, all the songs, everybody's trying to get back home. My opinion. If I'm wrong, I don't care. I'll just be wrong. That's all right. Now, when I discovered the harmonics, and I discovered them 30 years ago, but I made the big mistake of lending my book to somebody. We know how that one went. So I never saw the book again for 30 years. But I revamped my study in harmonics about 10 years ago or a while. And that's when I rediscovered the 12th harmonic. Now, what the 12th harmonic is, you take the value of a planet. Let me show you what I mean. And to me, the most important thing in an astrology chart is the birth chart, followed by the 12th harmonic. They're that important. Okay, here's his birth chart. All right, let me get it on here. And I'm trying to really take my time. Okay, this planet is at the 20th degree of the zodiac because it's in Aries. This planet is at the 75th degree of the zodiac. You got 30 degrees of Aries, 30 degrees of Taurus, 15 degrees of Gemini. It's at the 75th degree. So this is how harmonics work, just in case you wouldn't know mentally. We used to do it all by hand. So every planet has this number, how far it is from 0 Aries. You multiply times 12 because 12 is the number of Pisces, numerically. Pisces is the spiritual chart. You get a great big number and you keep subtracting 365 from 360 from it until you end up with a number and it ends up back on the chart. So you take everything in the birth chart times 12 and you put it back on the chart. And you end up with the 12th harmonic, which looks like this. That's how this is calculated. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, we're going to get into this in a minute. I asked my girl about 10 years ago, we got these charts, we're doing all these charts, but why are these people the way they are? Why? Why do you have 9 kids in the family? One becomes a cop, one becomes a crook. There are 7 okay. Why does it happen? It's not just somebody rolling the dice. So I started investigating, could that 12th harmonic be a sample of their past life that informs the birth chart? And that's exactly what I found. Now, I started to call the 12th harmonic the past life chart, and that was wrong because it's not about one lifetime. But here's what it really is. The 12th harmonic chart is your, and for lack of a better word, I call it the spiritual transcript. It is the chart of all your past lives summarized. This is what I've found. And I've done thousands of these things. And there are a lot of people that tell you you can't even do one of these things, that it's not valid to do this stuff because they're prone to transits, they're prone to eclipses, everything. They say, oh no, you're doing what an eclipse is not. You're doing what a harmonic's not meant to do. Well, I just see nothing but truth and proof and proof and proof. So I'm gonna keep doing it. So what you find out is this. When you are between lives, and when you are with your guardian angel or when you're with your spirit guides and you're studying, they open the book of all your past lives, you know, the vision. And we're saying, oh, Marcia, should you take another life? And boy, you've been awful selfless through all these lives. And in this new life, what do you think you should be? Well, Marcia says, well, I think in this new lifetime, I should try this and I should work on this and I should work on that. And they work on an arrangement. And if you think you're born by C-section or by chance, you're crazy. It's not. You're born at precisely the minute you have to be born. Has to be. because there's only that one time when the zodiac is like that. So when you take a look at Mr. ADHD, here he is. He had to be born when the sun had just risen. The moon was starting to set. All these planets were not visible because the sun was shining. Okay? He had to be born on March 18th at that particular city, at that particular time. That's just the way it goes. Now, why, you ask? The reason why is when you study the 12th harmonic, what is the 12th harmonic obsessed with? It's all your past lifetimes. It's a summary of where you've been living. And we need to put into play our next lifetime with challenges. We need to be more ego-centered. We need to be less ego-centered. We need to be calmer. We need to be more lively, whatever, to counterbalance. In general, when you do a lot of these charts, what you find over and over and over and over is most people are just inundated with tremendous amounts of pressure of spiritual dogma. We've just had this stuff shoved up our noses. You better do this, and it's all behavior oriented. You shouldn't be doing that. You should act this and don't do this and do that. And you have to obey and all this. This is what the 12th harmonic show us. That's been what I have found. Now, here's the good part. I don't even need a drink of water for this. The reason you do all this is because you want a better chance at getting in the pearly gates. It's that simple. You want a better chance. And when you start thinking about the pearly gates, you think about all this crap. Oh, you're going to go to hell. And if you do this, oh, you can do that. I was 10 years old leaving catechism. I was 10 years old in the Catholic Church leaving the confessional, hoping I would be hit by a truck instantly. Because I was told that if I were pure, I would go to heaven. And if I had one little sin, going down the shit. So when I walk out of that confessional, I knew I was pure as the snow, and I wanted to get hit by something. Of course, I didn't walk in front of a truck. But that just shows you the junk that we get in our brains. Okay, moving on. And this is really important. This is the crux of the matter. So we inform our birth chart. We know who's going to play what roles because we travel in soul groups. And Daddy last lifetime is going to be my wife in this chart. And my sister in this lifetime is going to be my grandson. We're all switch roles. And these parents who get blamed for everything, they're not the problem. Your problem is not your parents. Your problem comes from what you're carrying from the past life. Now, I'm not going to condone a parent that's beating you or an alcoholic father, that stuff. I'm not getting into that. But I'm saying in general, your parents are playing out a role because you need to learn certain lessons. Now, what else I've learned recently, and this is amazing, almost everybody gets to about 60 or 65 before they break through. This is what I'm finding. I'm finding 60 to 65. I have so many people come to me who are ready to liberate. They're just done with the junk. And then what's the junk? The junk is all the iron rings around your ankles. You can't move because it's got you trapped. It's that past guilt. That's what it is. It's past time guilt, past lifetime guilt. That's what it's about. And you remember Nook Sanchez has been on this program. She's a big author with A Course in Miracles, a friend of mine. She was on our show, and I called her one day because I was having a personal difficulty with a certain thing. And I said, Nook, I'm having an issue with guilt. I'm having trouble with guilt. She wouldn't even let me state the question. No matter what it was guilt. No matter what the question was, it was guilt. So that's how big it is, okay? Now, what I'm getting to is this. We think that if we perfect our lives and we have these new lessons and our spirit group comes in and plays these roles and we start to get into the second half of our life, which is after 65, it's not numerical, but it's when you really start to live free of these chains from the 12th harmonic. What we find out is that there are no pearly gates. There is no hell. There's no pearly gates, and there's nothing that we have to do to get in. Well, that kind of blows the whole picture. There's nothing that we have to do to get in. There's nothing we have to do to gain favor. There's nothing that we have to do. Nothing. We're already in favor. We're already in heaven. So let's get to the boy's chart. So I tell her, when I look at the chart, Mr. ADHD, I tell her, what's his issue? He's got this martyristic complex, Venus next to Neptune, Mercury next to Uranus. He's got this T-square to Moon in Scorpio. And what's the number one problem with Scorpios? The number one problem with Scorpios is being over-dedicated. I'm so dedicated, I will never betray myself, I will never betray another, and thou shalt never betray me. You just don't betray anybody ever. How would you like to betray Charles Manson? How about that one? There's an example. So when you look at this boy's mind is filled with all this guilt of all the imperfection because he's so overly dedicated. He can't make a mistake. He's not allowed to because he's got to be perfect. Now, this is not coming from mom and dad or grandma. This is coming from all this past life stuff that's programmed in. And what do you think happens when Uranus comes in the neighborhood? Including tonight when it's exact. Yes, Linda, he wants free of it. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to. It might mean he's going to have a couple weeks of hell till this agitation settles down, and then they can deal with it. A lot of times, a big planet hits you, and you can't do nothing while it's there because it's just so much confetti in the air. You got to wait till it calms down, then you can work on it. Yes, a lot of times, especially with Taurus people. So, right when Uranus entered Taurus, he started having these problems. Right when Uranus started, even though his moon's at 7, Uranus entered 0. And when Uranus goes into a new sign, it sends its shockwaves. That's why the cover of that book is a diamond. It's got 12 equal flat demarcations of signs. It's exact. One sign shifts to the other. There is no cusp. You're that sign, you're the next. So I can guarantee, as a matter of fact, I gave the grandma the dates when it hit him the first 2-3 times. She said, yep, yep, yep. Because that's how Uranus is. Now, my dad had a sun at 2 degrees back in his day. And when Uranus came in, as soon as it hit 0, he had a stroke. He had aneurysms. He had all kinds of things go wrong within the first several months and eventually died. We knew that he couldn't handle a Uranus. We knew he could not handle a Uranus transit. Why? Because he was non-Uranian. He was not in touch with that part of himself that said, hey, I want to do this, okay. Hey, I want to do this, okay. He wasn't in touch with that part. So when that part got amplified, the juice turned up, fried his circuits. I knew 5-10 years before it hit him. So with this child, with Uranus hitting his moon, and it's exact tonight, exact. It'll be back in 84 years. The part of him, Uranus, that wants to be him, wants out. You hear me talking about this all the time, because that's what a chart wants. It wants to be himself. Well, it's running afoul with what? Are you going to get all this Pisces stuff to start realizing that you can do things for yourself? You don't have to be a martyr. What about this? I'm a fanatic for other people. What about this? I'm a fanatic for other people. What about this? I got an incredibly intense philosophy. Are you going to get all these planets to turn around and agree and let Uranus hit that moon? It's going to take time. It's going to take time because he's a born martyr. But the good thing is that he found me. He found his grandma. He found me through her. It's not me, it's that he found a voice that can explain this. Imagine trying to explain this to your 15-year-old without astrology. What are you going to say? I don't know why so many people have left the discussion, but that's up to them. To me, it's one of the most important discussions we've ever had, ever. When Uranus comes through you, you have to say to it, okay, I want you to come through, come on through. But if you have rules against it, and habits against it, and a past against it, it has trouble getting through. So the trouble he's having is not Uranus, it's the rigidity of allowing it to express itself. That's the problem. So we go in his chart. Now we go look at his 12th harmonic. Okay. What do we see in his 12th harmonic? This is the past life. I'll got to get it on your screen. This is the spiritual transcript chart. Look at this. This is a martyr. Jupiter, Venus in Scorpio, never going to betray anybody. Sun, Pluto in the 8th house, very, very intense. Venus in Leo next to Uranus, very, very loyal. Moon is in the 12th house, very delicate. And transits to this chart work just like a natal chart. So right now, Pluto and Saturn are all doing their heavyweight stuff up here. Eris is up here. You see in his chart, Pluto opposite Venus, he's just got so many symbols in his chart where he's not allowed to be a non-martyr. Not allowed to. So he's got to start by, and this is going to depend on his parents or his grandparents' rules, and they're got to get past their own rules too. He doesn't want to suffer. So what did I tell her? Oh, look at this. By the way, watch out for what? Watch out because here's the birth chart. Neptune now is here. Neptune is here. He's got Saturn coming into here. He's got Jupiter coming into here. Watch out because he's going to be tempted to get in a wrong crowd of drugs. Pisces are real famous for escaping through drugs and alcohol or affairs. Very, very famous for that. She said, it's already started, the temptation. I said, whatever you do, whether you got to read his mail or what, you cannot let this child get involved with the wrong kind. It's in Aquarius, it's in the 11th house, so it's happening over the internet with COVID. And I don't care. I've learned my lesson. If I had to go back in time, I believe if your child's below 18, you can read any of their mail you want to. You can look at anything you want in their room if it's going to save their life. And if they're pretty honorable and everything's cool, I'm not worried about it. But that's what's happening. He's being tempted. Why? Because why do you go down a Neptune road with drug abuse and alcohol abuse with your friends and escape? Well, you go down that road because you don't think you can handle the proper road. And the proper road is hard to handle because you have to be deserving of it. That's the problem with it. You have to feel like you deserve it. And a lot of Pisces people and Scorpio people feel that they're not deserving. They feel too impure. They find one little thing they did wrong and they can feel like it's a vulgar sin, a venial sin. So once I started discovering this, it became very clear. You have the enlightenment coming to a 15-year-old who's really not that capable of enlightenment yet. He's just past 14, which is Saturn opposite Saturn. So he's just starting to divide into groups, cliques, and that's a hell of a time, junior high. And then he's got all the garbage that these doctors have taught him and all the medicine that they got him on. And thank God they got him out of his environment at home and put him with grandma. Grandma's a broader thinker, a bigger thinker. She's been working with me. I can tell you right now, she's got the right mindset to deal with him. He's a good boy. Now, it's not going to calm down now. Not when Uranus is the kitty. It's not going to calm down when Uranus is exact today. It's not going to. This is when everything's thrown up in the air. And he probably is feeling shattered, scattered, like the deck is just thrown across the room. But he's going to start to feel over the next couple of weeks calmer and better, because hopefully he's going to start allowing that force to come through. As we get away from the exact opposition, the Uranus is going to become milder. He's going to start hearing it as the voice that says, hey, I'm allowed to do this. Because all Uranus wants to do is what Fred said in Pittsburgh. There's nobody like you. On the neighborhood. There's nobody like you. Fred Rogers. That's Uranus, is I want to be the real me. Everybody is unique. Now, see, uniqueness is anti his chart, because his chart is so other, pleasing others, doing with groups, doing with others. So he's got to see that he can be very spiritually aligned, he can be very spiritually attuned, and be a strong self at the same time. Because I guarantee you, if you met Jesus, Jesus had a hell of a personality. I guarantee he had a very strong sense of self. I guarantee it. And see, we get all that confused. So the 12th harmonic shows us all the things we come into this life and we think we need to do, and you end up finding out you don't need to do any of it. How many of us would be better off? Raise your hand. How many of us would be better off if we would just leave ourselves alone? If we would just stop passing ourselves. There's Claudia. If we would just let ourselves be. But we're just so much fed with so much stuff that we got to do. And it's, and your crowd's different than my crowd, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's an incredible chart. I cannot tell you what's going to happen to him. We don't know what's going to happen to him in the future. Look at this. Neptune's at 20. It's going to go over his sun. In his subconscious mind, this is going to give him the opportunity in the next 3 or 4 years to become very, very spiritually tuned or real lost. Very spiritually tuned or real lost. Okay, that's going to be very, very strong. His ruling planet coming home to roost over his sun. Uranus is at 7 right now. It's going to pass this. It's not going to come back. It's going to get to 10, 11. Then it's going to start squaring the Venus-Uranus, Venus-Neptune, which is why he's getting these opportunities to hang out with the wrong crowd on the internet. Uranus is here, 10 and 11, squaring the Venus and the Neptune in Aquarius. So this could be very good, him getting with the right crowd and him coming to life. It could be very good. Another thing that happened to this poor child is before Uranus hit that moon, it squared that Saturn. It was here at 4 degrees for the past year. And as it was squaring that Saturn, what do you think it did to his stability? He's not stable to begin with, and this is his source of stability. And Uranus start cracking it. That's when he started to find out that I can't even stay here in my bedroom with my mom and dad and be safe. It's crazy here. This is not because of his mom and dad. This is what's going on inside of him. So he's been dealing with Uranus squaring that Saturn and opposing that moon, which is exact right now. Tomorrow it'll be at 7:30. It'll start to move away. Okay. What else has he got? He's got Pluto at 25 at Capricorn. Okay, so Pluto's here. It's about to go into his 11th house. So what's Pluto doing in his 11th house? Another sign of getting involved with some heavy-duty friends. If you don't watch Pluto coming into your house of friendship, you're going to end up with the dark trench coat and the dark nails and the dark eyebrows and the goth stuff. The goth stuff is Pluto. So it's really up to him. We know that when you are put with your Virgo grandmother, there's a very good chance that the Virgo grandmother is going to try to really honestly put you on the straight and narrow, clean up your act. You're going to trust her. She's going to speak the truth to you. I don't know the parents, but I can see what's happening here. But you can see in this chart that we're all like this. We all set up our birth chart because of what we perceive as imperfections. Then we go through all these transits. Oh, what transit is a part of you is coming out like a shoot, and it's got a reason to come out, and it's another part of you being expressed, but are you going to let it be expressed or not? Okay, I have time for questions now. We have a few minutes. Any questions you might have on this chart and how this works, feel free to unmute yourself. And I think this chart is an extremely powerful learning mechanism. Anybody got questions about what you see, John?
I don't have a question, no.
Okay. Joe?
I was just wondering, throughout these things have been happening to him for the past 2 years, and I noticed that last year Neptune would have been really moving on top of his natal Mercury in the 12th house. Would that have?
That's when he was suicidal.
Yeah.
I talked to his grandma today. When Neptune hit there, within a couple of days, is when he wanted to commit suicide. He wanted out. That was within a couple of days. Neptune was at 15. You're right. Back in December, January. Now it's at 20. You noticed it, and what about it?
No, I was just wondering what was going on at that time, because that would have been significant.
Well, what happens is when you're already knocked off, you ever been losing your balance and then another force hits you that really makes you lose it? There's no way you're going to get back up. That's what that's about. Now, these are all, to me, I've seen so many charts. This child has every reason to believe that he can be successful. He can be very successful. And I told her that I thought he would end up being quite a spiritual teacher. He's got the ability. If he goes the other route and he tilts and he can't handle it, and he comes back in another lifetime, he comes back with the same issues. I can't judge it. I can't say what's right or wrong or what, but I can say Neptune's moving away, Uranus is moving away, Uranus is moving away from that Saturn.
Yeah, because that was really
Right.
the transiting Uranus was really creating like a fixed grand cross in his chart
That's
with Chiron
exactly
and everything.
exactly right.
Yeah, it was just too much.
Yeah, it was too much. And the reason it was too much was because he was unconsciously putting too much weight on that Saturn. The
Mhm.
whole chart was depending on that Saturn. And all of a sudden, that's what Uranus does to Saturn. He says, oh, you think you can depend on that? You know what's happening to everybody now. You can look around, pull way back and look at everybody you know. Everybody you know, on every level. What's happening now with Pluto Eris worldwide is everybody starting to lose their things they lean on. People are starting to lose their connectivity to their support systems. That's what we're seeing. And that's why you see people going, and if we go blow up the Capitol, that'll sure fix it. I know, blow up the damn Capitol, then I'll really be stable. But that's what's going on. But you're exactly right, Joe. He's young. He's just gone through Saturn opposite Saturn. He's had Uranus hitting Saturn, but mainly you see, he has more problems than other people do because he's born with Uranus next to Mercury. So when Uranus goes over here and does anything, it's going to stimulate that natal Uranus Mercury. Okay? I had Uranus hit me recently about 3 or 4 months ago. I knew all about it coming and when it was there. And then when it was there, I was losing it. It's just really intense. And I tell people it's like going to bed with your fingers in the 110 and you wake up with them in the 440. What are you going to do? I mean, you can go paint wild pictures, you can go ride a wild horse, you can get a punching bag, you can do whatever, but it's just not easy. It just isn't easy when it's on you. When the big planets are on you, it's just really difficult. It just is. And I would recommend to grandma not to try to do anything just yet, but to let this stuff sink in and to let this picture, she's very bright. And if I need to speak with the boy, I would be glad to. I would love to if he's ready. He's got a lot of ability. He's very advanced. He's got a lot of ability, but you can see he's got to tame that Saturn and Leo, so at least he'll be open to listening. He's got to tame that moon in Scorpio. That's the real issue because he wants to punish himself. He wants to punish himself for being so bad. That's the problem. That's the first thing I told her. And that's what the 12th harmonic shows all of us. We all think we're so damn bad. It's just ridiculous. That's why I'm looking for another planet now. As you well know, when Eris was discovered, she was discovered with 80 new planets. And there are 7 or 8 new ones. Hamia, Make, Gong. There are all these, about 10 of them that are really significant. And I can really feel Pluto and I can feel Eris and I can feel something else is here. There's something else here that's making us more, I've got to do it my way. It's very Uranian, but it's not Uranus. It's much bigger. So I'm going to start exploring these other 9 or 10 planets to see where it is. But the reason we're going through such crazy stuff, including a world where you can't get rid of Trump, you can't get rid of his image. You can't get rid of it, is the Pluto Eris. How do planets get named? That's a real good question, Ray. There's an astronomical body that meets and tries to name the planet either after the discoverer or match its qualities to the Greek or Roman god that matches it. And it's really funny. The astronomers will see something about the way Eris moves and declare it to be chaotic. The astrologers are smart enough to feel it and see it, because as soon as you get a planet tracked, you could place it on people's charts through the past and you could see what it's like, what its nature is like. So they get together. Most of the time they get it right. The only one I've heard complaints about is that Uranus, this is by Richard Tarnas, that Uranus should be not named Uranus because it's named after the god Uranus, but he believes strongly that it should be named after Prometheus, which is interesting. But there are plenty of people that put their heads together. They don't just do it willy-nilly, and the astrologers do it by sensing it. And there's so many astrologers nowadays that they usually get it right. We're dealing with Sedna. She's probably next. Sedna, Sedna. And the reason you're not hearing much about these other ones is because they're rather mild, their natures. Come on, Claudia. I know you got a question in there somewhere.
Well, I was just thinking about when you're dealing with a young person's chart, you don't really talk to them directly. You usually talk to, as the astrologer, you're usually talking to the parental figure or something. That can be a little bit of a tightrope depending on the parent. Do you find that? I mean, because it's that connection is so strong. And a lot
Well, what you have to do, you have to explain to the parent how the energy is, what it's like, what its plus is like, what its minus is like. And the way you get them in your camp is you show them the date that it hit. And they go, boing, okay. Including tonight was exact.
right.
She and I picked this date a couple weeks ago. I didn't know Uranus would be exact tonight. Okay. But you're exactly right. And the best thing about it is they know that your heart is in the right place and you're trying to help. The ones that are difficult in general, the ones that are difficult are the Jupiter children. Oh, lovely. Jupiter, the good luck planet. I've had parents drag their kids in my office with Jupiter problems, and man, in general, most of them I've just said, sorry, there's nothing I can do, because a lot of the Jupiter kids just don't care.
Interesting.
They just don't care. They don't want to be bothered because it ain't fun. They don't want to be bothered because it ain't fun. I don't want to grow up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this child has a lot of really good things. And if she can get this moon in Scorpio turned around, this can be a really powerful young person, really powerful. But it all depends on whether the child's going to continue to self-blame. And so, if there's any blaming going on in the household with mom and dad, that's got to stop now.
Right.
That's just got to stop. The kid
That's
can't
it.
handle it. But I do think he's going to be tempted with groups. There's several indications here. And why not be a group that's good for him? You
Yeah.
know, especially a young spiritual group. Because this kid has the spiritual qualities. He's got the spiritual interest. He's brilliant, this child.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know if something happens tonight to either him personally or his mom. It could. I have no idea, but it could. Uranus is the planet that hits exactly. I certainly hope he's fine. You saw what happened to Tiger, but what happened to Tiger when the planets were 1 degree away? What heck happened to him is unconscious repression. He doesn't know he's doing it. Everybody just sees him well off and rich and he can do anything he wants. That doesn't have anything to do with whether he's being able to be the real Tiger. You see what I mean? Maybe his dad did enough drilling of dogma in his brain that he's just not willing to allow the real Tiger out. I don't know, but I can guarantee you that's the issue because it always hits the lower leg. Yes, Linda. Let me get you unmuted.
Okay, there we go. I mean, I don't think it was accidental tonight that you mentioned suggesting martial arts to Colleen's son, because when you're talking about entering into the house of friendship and the possibility of dark influences, one of the things I was thinking with such a spiritual child is that, you know, the other side of that is the deep traditions of some kind of martial arts, not the sort of more combative ones,
That's
but
right. Yeah.
you know, where what a young person like this needs is a mentor in a group where there are practices going on that are deeper and more substance and you know, more substantive. And that, you know,
Yeah, when I have calling with it years ago, I said, make sure you don't get the kind of martial arts teacher with trophies, but the one that's going towards a discipline. And the boy really reacted well. He really did well.
well, see,
Even-
I'm a great believer, you know, as your student, that you're extraordinarily intuitive, and almost everything you say has some resonance to what it is we're looking at. And the fact that you brought that up, and the more you talked about this kid, and as someone who has a moon in Scorpio, I sort of know what you're talking about, because my own self-destructiveness took another direction although
Okay, what did you do with your moon in Scorpio? You went through a big transition the last 15 years.
oh, I mean,
What did you do? What did you do to your moon in Scorpio being a Libra?
well, you just said there's part of you that wants to ride the wild horse and you have to let it. And I went, and what I did was I have a charm bracelet, and I don't wear it very much because, you know, it clanks and stuff, but I bought a horse and put it on
You
my
did?
charm. I put it on my charm bracelet to remind myself that I like to ride the wild horse, and that I have to not stop that part of myself. I have to feel.
That's very good. And that's not easy for a Libra.
Well, you know, but one of the things that I've learned from you is to let the other parts of my chart.
No, you're
develop.
exactly right. And if grandma's listening to this videotape during the week or whatever, it's real important. Moon in Scorpio, you know, I got Venus in Scorpio, and I drive my girl crazy watching movies. Oh, that's terrible. Look at that cut. Why did that guy, I used to be a filmmaker, why did he cut that? Oh my God, it's terrible. Look at that. Wow, that's just fabulous. You see what happened? These people are just watching a movie. But that's just Venus in Scorpio, Moon in Scorpio. You just feel real black or white. But that's okay if you just kind of get it in perspective.
Well, that's why I think, I mean, and this isn't the astrology part of me, it's the teacher part of me, is that when kids are on this sort of cusp of trouble, they need something larger than themselves. And what he needs is something spiritual larger than himself, not necessarily basketball or, you know, football.
Right. And Linda, the thing that's excellent about tonight is this. He got through to the internet. He's being talked about now. This will be, people in Malaysia will be watching this. This is a major, major sign that he's going to be okay. It's not a guarantee, but it's a major sign because it shows that he's ready. That's what Uranus does. It makes you ready. Suddenly, you're ready. Okay? It may be hard at first. You're ready, and it also makes it, things come out of nowhere to help him. this astrologer in Pittsburgh is helping him. Where the hell did that come from? So that's how it works. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed tonight. I thought it was one of the most important shows I've done astrologically, because my job is to show you how the planets work, how we live with them, etc. I appreciate your patience. It's not as fun as seeing what happened to Tiger Woods, but it's really a meaningful discussion when you see a young man who is going through great turning points. And I know Grandma's going to watch the show, and I want to just send my best to the both of you and to Mom and Dad and wish them the best. And I'm available in case you need me. Everybody, who knows what the hell next week's going to be like? Maybe they're going to bomb the Capitol.
Oh, my.
I don't want that to happen. Everybody, there's your kitty cat. Peace
she's
and
been
love,
here up and
everybody.
down.
Huh?
She's been here the whole time, up and down. So have a good week.
Thanks, everybody. I see you next week. We'll think something to talk about.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Love y'all.